Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen, and in today's episode, I'm actually going to be sharing reminders with you because we have entered the 10 days, the very special 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, and I don't have to tell you about how special that is. It is 10 very beloved days to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of miracles will be taking place, from like a divine perspective, from a spiritual perspective. This is where, you can erase sins, where you can add rewards, where you can really mess stuff up for yourself if you go out and you sin on these days. But it's also a very special moment to make some du'as and ask Allah for some things that you may have been dreaming about for a long time but not necessarily had the courage to ask Allah for, or maybe just get it all sort of like in a moment where Allah really wants to reward us in a lot of ways, of course, but also by answering our du'as perhaps a little bit sooner than otherwise, because we made the du'a during these beautiful 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. So the reminder that I have for you, this is not going to be a long episode. Well, I don't know. I can speak for days and days, I'm sure. So I don't think it's going to be a long episode, but here's what I want you to remember. That when you are approaching your du'a in these days, I mean, obviously do your salat, fast the days that you want to fast, do your dhikr, do everything that you want to do, but please do not skimp on the du'a. Don't skimp on the conversations, those very intimate personal conversations between you and Allah. And what I want to say to you, and I want you to remember this, is don't be shy with Allah. There's a difference between, approaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with humility and a sense of humbleness, but shy is not it. Shy and pretending to be coy or whatever, it's kind of not it. We need to approach the du'a with a certain level of what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's tawakkul, but like there's another word that I really wanted to use. Wait for it, it's gonna come. I'm sure of it. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Give me the word that I'm looking for. Certainty. Thank you so much. I don't know who I was thanking. Allah, I'm sure of it. Certainty. There has to be a level of certainty that you are going to enter your du'as with, specifically in these days. I mean, generally speaking, anytime we enter a du'a and we want to have that conversation with Allah and ask him for something, or just vent, or say thank you for things, but specifically during days that are specifically beloved to Allah, and where he is more prone to sort of give more rewards and more blessings for what we would already be doing, on a regular basis, of course. So this is your reminder not to be coy with Allah. Don't come into the du'a thinking, oh, if I, play it small, then Allah's going to be impressed with me and then he'll give me more. The du'a is a wonderful tool. It's a very powerful thing that Allah has given to us. The du'a, I'm sure I've mentioned it before, it's like a magic wand without, the accessory. We don't need an accessory. We don't need a magic wand that we can displace because we've got ADHD and we don't remember where we put things. It's not one that we can break or something. The du'a is always available to us. And we don't need to do anything like specific. We don't have to have huge, we don't need to make a big huzzah or anything around it. We can enter the du'a anytime we want to. And it is so magnificent because it is it's a tap into Allah's magic, wonders, miracles, power, limitlessness, and so on and so forth. So when we go into the du'a, we need to go into it also with, as I said, a level of certainty, but also some clarity, understanding what you're actually doing, what you're participating in here, and the limitlessness of the powers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also, and I need to say this, and I know that some people might get their knickers a little bit in a twist because it can sound a certain way, but don't play Allah for a fool. I know that sounds I can't believe you said I would never. And I understand that. But when we go into a dua and we're going to pretend to be all coy and like, I'm not going to say to Allah, but like in reality, I think that if I just like am shy around it or pretend like I'm grateful, even though I want so much more, but I'm not going to ask for it because I'm just like, if I just keep sort of like playing it safe, then eventually Allah's going to, no. I mean, he might. I'm not like, astaghfirullah, who am I to say it on behalf of Allah? But the point of the dua is that one specific tool that Allah has given us to have an impact on our own qadr by the will of Allah. And it is for Him to also judge us and get to know us by, in the sense of, will you trust me enough to come with me with your deepest desires? Will you trust me enough to say the things to me that you think sound absolutely ludicrous, because you know if anyone can do it, then I'm the one who can do it. Astaghfirullah, I'm obviously not talking about me, but that Allah is like looking at you with that sense, right? And so when we're entering the dua, we're doing it with that understanding, and that agreement of, even though I don't know if I'm worthy enough of this, even though I have made mistakes in the past, even though I have sinned, even though I have been the worst person, even though I don't think that I am worthy of it, even though I haven't done an iota of the things that I feel like I should have done or be doing in order for me to deserve this thing that I'm going to ask for, I am still going to come into this dua and ask you for this thing, because even with all of that have been taken into consideration, I still know and understand that if anything is going to be possible for me, it's only going to be through the will of Allah. So I will take this to the right place. I'm going to take this query of mine, this desire of mine, this dream, this whatever it is, and I'm going to present it to Allah, and I'm going to say, I know I have my flaws, but Ya Rab, I want to be better. I want to do better. I want to have more, whatever it is that you feel like you need to say. And this is the thing. And this is the thing. Show me how good life can get when I have you on my side. Okay? And introduce the thing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Know your reasoning why. Understand your niyyah. When you're coming into your dua, understand why you're asking Allah for these things as well. Clarity, you see, clarity makes a lot of sense here, because you will also be able to come in with that clear intention, that clear niyyah when you're making that dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that makes a world of a difference, because you will understand your desire. You'll understand why you're asking Allah for this thing. And so you can leave the guilt, the pressure, the shame, whatever it else you might be holding on to, you can leave that behind and come to Allah with that sense of clarity and understanding that this thing can change your life in ways that, of course, He understands that, but that you have an understanding of it. You understand yourself, you understand your role, you understand your niyyah, you understand your desire, and you understand Allah's ability to give. Okay, so that is the first thing that I want to say. So like, really come into your dua and don't think about it as a transaction. Look at all the things that I've done. It's a whole other thing, and maybe I'll do that episode actually maybe a different time, inshallah, because we can do like dua transactions also, but that's a whole other thing. That's not for today. But in this case, it's not necessarily a transaction. Most of our duas are not necessarily transactions. And what I mean by transactions is that quite often when we go into our dua, we're thinking, if I pray 5 times today, then in the end of the day, because I've done my 5 prayers, like I've met the minimum requirement, I can actually sit down and ask Allah for something. But I can't do it during my dhuhr or asr prayer, because I don't know if I'm still going to show up for the last ones. Or, that could have just been an example. Another one could have been, oh, actually, I said oof to my mum, or something worse, yesterday. So I feel like I can't ask for something now. So you feel like it's transactional. You feel like you have to show up in whatever way. And to an extent, that could be true. I mean, none of us knows the ways of Allah except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? But, and this is what I want you to remember. Oh my God, I can't remember the exact surah and ayah, but I actually spoke about it a couple of episodes ago, in one of my Thursday episodes, where Allah says that everybody will feel, the abundance of Allah, that Allah will bless everyone, even those who don't believe. So in that, we can already tell that du'as and the blessings of Allah are not transactional necessarily, that everyone, even those he dislikes, will still feel that abundance and love from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya. Okay, so he will still have everybody taste that goodness of Allah, because he wants everybody to know that this is who Allah is, right? Allah is abundant. He wants us, as I said, to succeed. He wants us to be happy, and he wants us to understand the magnitude of who he is, right? And we as Muslims have a very, one way of looking at it. And then you've got, the kafirs who have a different opinion of it, of like, oh, that's just luck. It's just whatever. But we understand it's all from Allah. But in that specific thing where Allah specifically says to us, it kind of bothers me right now that I can't remember specifically where it was, but go back maybe like 3 or 4 episodes ago on my Thursday episodes, and you'll find the surah that I mentioned it in, because I did have like a Thursday episode on it. But what I want you to understand is that it's not necessarily transactional, because the kafirs are not doing anything for it either. And I'm not sitting here trying to sort of, if the kafirs can do it, then we can do it. It's not like that, but it's to understand the abundance of Allah, that even if he's displeased with you, he'll still give you, right? And so it's not that he's going to ignore that you were merch to your mum yesterday and said some things that you maybe regret today, or that whether or not you prayed all your salahs or however, Allah will still bless, because that is the nature of Allah. But he might still feel some type of way. None of us can say this, of course. So it's not to say that, Allah is going to just like look past it or whatever. But it's, I totally just moved the camera there. But it's to say that we should stop looking at it as a solely transactional thing, because that's not how the dua works. So even if you're coming into the dua and you're thinking, I don't know, I feel like since last Dhul Hijjah or since Ramadan or whatever, I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. I haven't been as on point. I haven't been as spiritual. I haven't been on my prayers. I haven't been as happy. I have been kind of falling into my depression. I've been this, that, and the other. Remember that it's not a transactional thing. At any moment, you can choose to do differently. And that can start with a dua. And it can be from the correct dua. Again, not one where you're coming in and you're treating it as a transaction. We're not striking deals with Allah. Astaghfirullah. That's not how it works. I mean, again, like there's a whole other thing, but there's, again, a different episode. Come back to that one, inshallah. But it's a question of understanding that Allah doesn't need anything from us in order to give. But sometimes he would like for us to ask. That's all. And sometimes he wants us to ask with the correct intentions, the right understanding, the correct clarity. And this is why I'm saying, instead of taking chances on your dua, which you of course can always do, Allah is not saying you can only ask me of things if and when. He just says ask, right? So however you feel about yourself, you can always ask, but we always want to make sure that Allah is pleased with us. Right? So of course I'm going to say, don't forget everything else in your life. Don't just not pray during these days, or just in general, or like don't do all the extra things that you can and then just hope for the best. Obviously you want to impress Allah, right? So do what you can. Make sure that you're thinking about your desires, the du'as that you're going to ask Allah for. Make sure that the intention is in the correct place. Deal with your own mindset and stuff, and have that relationship with Allah. Do all of those things, because everything that you do where you can elevate yourself, the more impressed Allah is with you, the more he might want to give you even more than what you're even asking for. So you're like, I just want £100 extra a week or a month, and he's going to be like, £100? Nah, like you're doing good. I'm giving you 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, right? Because he's so happy with you, and he wants you to be happy with him. So he might tenfold that dua for you, right? None of us knows, but of course we want to always, at any time, not just during Dhul Hijjah, but we're just speaking about it now because it's Dhul Hijjah. We want to make sure we're showing up to Allah, in front of Allah, with a sense of, I'm doing everything I can to make sure that you and I are friends. That you like me the way that I like you. Not in the exact same way of like, because he will like us in a different way than we can like him, because we obviously look at him as, or not look at him as, but we know that he's God and the most powerful, though everything, and he doesn't look at us in that same way, but he loves us because he created us, right? So even though we're like, how could Allah possibly love me? He still loves you. He loves you so, so very much. But make sure that you're doing what you can to also show up in that dua with that sense of clarity, with preparation. And that's the next thing I want to say is prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. I was listening, I think it's a series. I'm actually not sure, but I think it's a series now because I spoke of it. I can't remember if it was Monday or Thursday's episode last week about Salah, and I was listening to a podcast by Omar Suleiman. I think it's a series, but he was talking about, this time I was listening to another one of the episodes about wudu and, the blessings within wudu and everything. And so listen to that episode if you can. Listen to his podcast in general if you can, of course. So many good things coming from that man, and a lot of others, of course. But I generally really quite like his podcast quite a lot. So the reason why I said it is because, the preparation could also be making wudu. You don't need to make wudu to enter into a dua. I'm just going to say that real quick. But when you know the blessings of the wudu, even the preparation, again, that could be a part of your preparation in coming in to the dua, cleansing yourself, performing that ritual so that you enter Allah in a clean state, and with that intention at the same time as well, because you're going into the meeting with the highest being, right? The preparation can also be what, I spoke about not too long ago on a TikTok about brain dumping. Brain dump, get your thoughts in order so that you don't show up to Allah. I don't know. Sometimes we do, because sometimes we genuinely don't know. But other times we're doing it because we didn't take the time to prepare. We didn't take the time because we take for granted sometimes that Allah just knows. And of course he knows. But sometimes Allah also wants to hear from us. He wants us to verbalize. He wants us to speak and understand from ourselves. And so instead of just coming in and kind of like winging it, which again, nothing wrong with it. So please don't take away from it that it's wrong if you come in and you're like, I don't know. It's not wrong. But there's also virtue and value in preparing yourself for that meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that doesn't mean that you have to show up perfect, but it means that you're putting thought into, I'm actually going to come in and ask Allah to potentially change my life forever. And do I want to come in with a sense of that respect and understanding of who I'm sitting in front of and asking? Or do I want to just kind of like wing it and kind of hope that whatever I'm trying to say comes out? And in that case, I would say prepare. Sit down, brain dump, look at the things that are on your list. What keeps repeating itself? What is the main not topic, but I guess topic that keeps showing up in different ways in the things that you're thinking about, and understand the intention, understand the niyyah, and then finesse it. Understand what you're actually asking Allah for, so you can vocalize it clearly to him. There is it is one of the steps in my book, Manifesting Muslimah, How to Use the Law of Attraction from a Muslim's Perspective. And or that's not like the subtitle, but you know what I mean. Excuse me, my nose is so itchy today. Either way, it's one of the steps around gaining that clarity and understanding what it is that you're actually asking for. There are many reasons for that. Number one, so you get to know and understand yourself. Two, you understand and get to know your own desires. Number three, so you can set the correct niyyah, which is so important for us because we will not just be judged on what we do, but also the intention. What did we intend with it? So if we've got a lot of materialistic stuff that we're asking Allah for, it's very important for us to understand the niyyah. Why am I asking Allah for this? Sometimes it's just a question of like, I like it. It just makes me feel good. And other times it's because you're trying to impress other people. Sometimes it's because, I don't know, you want to elevate yourself in front of other people's eyes or whatever. But understanding the niyyah is also the difference between, is this generally something that Allah is also going to be happy with for me? Is this something that I can use one way or another to elevate myself, my nafs, in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So that sense of clarity is very important. And then, of course, also because when we're asking Allah for something, we know one thing to be for sure, and that is every dua is answered. We know this. Allah has made that promise to us. He will answer every single dua. How He answers and when He answers, we don't know this. But every dua will be answered. And there's nothing worse than making a request, whether it be in this dunya to other people or in front of Allah, and making it so vague that you don't know if it's come in yet or not. Because you were being vague with what you asked for, right? How many times have you, and I really genuinely want you to think about this. I'm sure I've done episodes about it in the past. Oh, Allah, I want more money. And then the next day you find £10 and that was it, right? And you're thinking, oh, that was great. But it wasn't what you were thinking of. Right? So, but the dua was answered, but you don't think it's been answered because your idea of what it meant was different. And it's not that Allah needs for you to be clear, because Allah, of course, knows what you're thinking of, but Allah also likes to test us. That's the whole point of this dunya, right? So do you understand what it is that you're asking for before He gives it to you? So you know when the goal has been met, when Allah has answered it, so that you can move on and know when to say thank you and not continuously come back and Allah being like, I've already given it to you, but you didn't notice it because you didn't think about what it was that you really genuinely wanted. And there was no clarity around it. So, but the most important thing for today's episode is remembering, and I want you to take note of what I'm about to say to you right now, because I think a lot of us get stuck in this trap. It's not about whether or not you think the thing you're asking for is impossible or possible for you. It's not about that. So don't go into the dua thinking, is this realistic? Can I make it, like in this 3D world that we're living in, can I make that happen? Like, I don't know. I don't see how that's going to happen. It's not about any of those things, because Allah is limitless. He doesn't need to work within our frames of logic, reason, realism, whatever. He will make things happen if it's meant to happen, if He wants it to happen. That includes your du'as. So when you go into the du'a, remove these perceived limitations that you have around whether or not you are able to get it done, whether or not you live in a country that would get it done, whether or not this, that, and the other, and have faith that if it is meant to be, even if it seems illogical, even if it seems unreasonable, even if it seems unrealistic, ask for it anyway. Understanding, of course, the limitations of dua. You're not going to ask for death for anyone. You're not going to ask for a unicorn or wings to fly. Like in this dunya, I don't know about the dunya or the akhirah and stuff, but, understanding the limitations of this dunya. So you can ask for wings. Chances are, if you're going to get the wings, you're not going to get them in this dunya. It's probably going to be in the akhirah, right? So ask within the limitations of what Allah has made available for us, okay? And then let Allah do the rest. And that's what I really want you to remember. Don't approach your dua with any limitations. Don't approach it with a perceived shyness that you have to play coy. Don't go into it without a sense of clarity or understanding of what's actually happening in the dua, what you're asking Allah for. Approach it understanding and knowing that it's like a magic wand. Say bibbidi bobbidi boop and there's the thing. Except, of course, it's far more beautiful the way that we have it in the dua. But you're the one who can take charge of that. So that is your reminder for today as we are entering the last I think it's 4 or 5 days now of Dhul Hijjah. And I am assuming a lot of you are making extra prayers, a lot of extra dhikr and dua. Sit down now, prepare yourself also for the du'as that you're either about to make or are currently making to Allah, and have that beautiful conversation with Allah. Remove yourself from the limitations of this dunya and connect with the one who is above any worlds, including the one that we're currently living in, and ask for everything that you desire that feels good, where the intention is correctly placed as well. All right, my darling, that is all I have for you today. I am super excited for all of us these days, and I'm excited. If you would like to tell me what you're asking Allah for during these beautiful blessed days, feel free to reach out to me over on Instagram and let me know over there. And of course, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I can't remember how many subscribers I've got now. I think it's like 370, so I'm like 130 away from reaching that 500 subscriber goal. So if you haven't done that yet, it will literally take a couple of minutes. I would really appreciate it so very, very much. And of course, don't forget to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening in from. It does help potentially new listeners find the podcast and know what they're getting themselves in for. All right, my darling, I will see you inshallah on Thursday's episode. But until then, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.